Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta, no matter where in this wild, wacky, and wonderful world you might be. Thank you so much for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. We've got an epic one for you this fine Monday madness. It's a new week. It's a blank canvas. Let's paint pictures. Let's tell stories. Rock and roll.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are all epic and everything in your world is happy and healthy. Welcome back to Squad Central, my podcast brother from another mother, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
Squaddies, good to have you back. Monday Madness with a special guest at ease, Squaddies, at ease.
Indeed, a very special guest, one of my favorite football people on the planet. He knows it. I think you guys may know it. European football connoisseur, I like to call him, as well as expert. He is the voice of Bundesliga in English for UEFA.com, does stuff for Amazon. He's a journalist. He is going to ease your fears when it comes to Kai Havertz, I'm sure. Welcome back to Squad Central, Mr. Kevin Hatchard.
Tension.
Oh, Kevin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. A little bit of downtime, bit of cricket with the kids in the park. Very nice.
Nice.
All very homely. Yeah. Father's Day was good. So
yeah.
Yes. Slightly quieter. Only slightly.
Two super dads here. Yeah. I mean, well done.
Mine's still going. Don't worry about that. Mine's going to stretch until probably tomorrow night.
Quite right. Quite right.
As it should, Super Kev. I mean, we are talking about, Super Kev stretches February out. It's his birthday at the beginning. Like, beginning of the month birthday, folks. We need to stretch it out a bit, right, Super Kev?
Yeah.
I mean, look, mine finished the end of March, but that's all right. It's only 8 weeks this year.
All right, let's not mess about here. Let's get stuck into it. Good evening to all the usual suspects in the house. There's quite a few of you already, but I love you. And Trev and Tammy Steele's Chief Like Officer, all of you, welcome back to Squad Central. But look, let's just start talking. Kevin Hatchard, I have heard you many times talking about German footballers. I've heard you many times trying to explain to Andy Goldstein and Jason Cundy about the art of Kai Havertz. I've heard you many times talk about, even when he was at Leverkusen, before he got to Chelsea, what a generational talent this fella is. So here we are. Who'd have thought it? Arsenal Football Club going in for Kai Havertz. Are you as shocked as we are?
I'm a little surprised, but the more you thought about it, the more it made sense, because he's the kind of guy that Mikel Arteta wants from a centre forward, in the sense that if you look at what Gabriel Jesus does, it's about not just being that classic centre forward. It's about dropping in. It's about combining with players. It's about having that intelligence to almost be able to play two positions. And the other part of it as well is that incredible work rate without the ball. And I think if you look at Kai Havertz's numbers, they'll tell you that without the ball, Kai Havertz works hard. He does. And, in terms of tackling, in terms of blocks he makes, in terms of interceptions, I think sometimes he suffers from the fact that he's quite a lanky player. He can look quite willowy, and people, I think he's this kind of guy who floats through games and they don't necessarily see that work rate.
Bit like Ozil, Kev. Bit like Ozil.
Well, the funny thing is, when in Germany, when they talked about him, he was always described as a combination between Mesut Ozil and Michael Ballack, because he had Ballack's ability to burst into the box, attack the ball in the air. He's good in the air, no question about that. And so he had that ability to burst into the box. But with the Ozil part of it, it was all about his ability on the edge of the box, sniffing out passes, sniffing out combinations with players. So I think sometimes people look at him in games and don't really take in the amount of defensive work he's capable of doing. So in terms of what Mikel Arteta wants from a centre forwards, I think Havertz fits that brief.
Okay, in terms of, so you just mentioned something that is the biggest criticism that I've seen from all us wannabe experts online, right? Is that it's all well and good kind of being effective going forward. But you mentioned about his discipline, tracking back. We know that with Mikel Arteta and the way that he wants to play, when you see kind of like Gabriel Jesus and how he re-galvanized even Saka and Martinelli, who were already disciplined in terms of hustling without the ball. Kev, I guess what Arsenal fans are trying to look for here is, yes, he scored a winning goal in the Champions League for Chelsea, but what is his legacy at Chelsea? Do we need to kind of look at the mess that Chelsea have been? Is it really truly a case of different managers? Did they never find his right position? Was he the jack of all trades and master of none? What's the true? Can you see why Arsenal fans are like, why are we doing this?
I think there's a few things at play here. I think the first is that Chelsea have been a chaotic club. They've had a number of managers. And I think also people have looked at Havertz throughout his career and said, what's his best position? Is he a wide forward? Is he an 8? Is he a 10? Is he a 9? What is he? But I think he's somebody who's intelligent enough to play that 9, to play that 10. And the thing is, if you look at Arsenal, it's about combinations, right? It's about that ability to play those little 1-2s to open up space. They've got that threat out wide, so that stretches the pitch as well sometimes. And so I think he's somebody who has the technical chops to fit in. He's somebody who has the intelligence to fit in. And he's somebody who has the work rate to fit in, because you guys know as well as I do, probably better, Arteta would not go near a player if he didn't think they were willing to work. Absolutely. If he thought they were just going to lose the ball and just sulk, there's no way he'd go anywhere near them. So I think you've got a guy there. If you take it right back to when he started, and he made his debut for Leverkusen at 17, and he was the youngest ever debutant in the Bundesliga for Leverkusen when he broke into the team. And he was so young that he actually missed a Champions League game, I think, in that first season against Atletico Madrid, because he had to stay behind and have school exams. So that was how young he was when he broke into the team. So this is a guy that's 24 now. He's had 7 years. That's a lot of experience. So it's not like you're picking up some callow youngster who's not really been around the block. He's had, 34 caps, I think, for Germany. Scored 13 goals. He's played in major tournaments. He scored the winning goal in the biggest club game in Europe. He scored the winning goal in the Club World Cup final. This is a guy who's done it on a big stage. So you would be getting a guy with experience, with quality, and with the kind of skill set Mikel Arteta could use. Has he been as good as we hoped he'd be for Chelsea? All people who watch Havertz and very much like him and want him to do well. He's not been as consistent as I would have liked, but he has had big performances in big games, and I can absolutely see why Arsenal are looking at him.
Super, Kev. I'm only using pictures of Havertz from his Leverkusen days.
So let's have it right here. And I looked at this. I looked at Chelsea don't necessarily have a great track record for some of helping them improve. Kevin De Bruyne was there. Could you imagine we'd have got him for Kevin De Bruyne when Kevin De Bruyne, Mo Salah. And look at them now. So I think sometimes when you look at a player at another club, it's not the right place to judge. We've got to judge him when he comes into our building with what Mikel Arteta and this squad are going to do to help him be better. Could he have been better at Chelsea? 100% he could have been better at Chelsea. But he was still a success at Chelsea, considering. But I look at him getting in our team in maybe that Xhaka role, where Xhaka played midfield, but he played so advanced, he found himself at the edge of the box a lot of the time. A lot of the time, crosses were coming in and Xhaka was in the box. That's where you want Kai Havertz, because one thing he can do, and you can look at the footage. If he gets an opportunity in the box, he can score goals. He can. But I think his confidence has taken a knock at Chelsea. They've ended up playing him at number 9 centre forward, which he can do. But Chelsea's been a mess. And we've loved it because Chelsea haven't been great. But I've been in teams where you've struggled. And Kai Havertz has been number 9. And they've had no service to him. The team's been disjointed. And this is why we get the opportunity to take him. And I believe Mikel Arteta knows what he's doing, and he's going to get the best out of him if we get
him. Super Kevin Hatchard, what's your take on Kai's dedication to his craft? Because a lot of the times Arsenal fans, and there's that comparison, right? From a professional point of view, some fans are trying to see the positives because Thierry Henry once said, you know, the way he plays with his back to goal, he reminds me of Robin van Persie. When it comes to some players, they have this laziness. You mentioned it at the top, and I threw Ozil in there, i.e. it looks like they're not making any effort at all. What kind of character is he? Because also with that same token of what Mikel's looking for to fill in gaps, whether it's a 10, an 8, a 6, the flanks, you know, it seems like he's identified someone who's very versatile, can be a hybrid for the team, and less of a jack of all trades and a master of some versus none. But what's his character like? What do you know of him to be a good teammate?
Certainly not a problematic player. And I think, again, I go back to Leverkusen because he came in at a very, very young age and somebody who very quickly became a focal point of that team. Now, to take on that responsibility for a club that regularly pushes for the top 4 in Germany and plays European football, you know, to have that kind of strength of character, that's a rare thing. So again, it comes back to perception. People look at him and they say, well, he looks a bit lazy or he looks a bit willowy or whatever. But, you know, there is a tough guy there. He's had confidence knocks, no question. He had a pretty bad case of COVID when COVID was at its height, and that knocked him back a fair bit. Because you've got to bear in mind as well, new country, new league, speaks very good English, but you know that was always going to be an adjustment for him, and so you know he's had to grow up. I've certainly never seen any problems when he was in Germany in terms of being a bad teammate, not being somebody people wanted to work with. Again, he's regularly been in that Germany squad, so there is a guy that. Again, Mikel Arteta, I don't think would go anywhere near him if he thought he was going to be disruptive or if he was going to be somebody that wouldn't work for the team. So, again, I understand why Arteta is looking at him, but I also understand why some Arsenal fans would be reticent because for Chelsea, he hasn't hit the heights on a consistent basis. But I do think there is a terrific footballer in there.
I have to agree, Kev, because you know, a lot of the times you also look at players and they'll say, well, it takes a player a year to settle in. You know, then you look at Havertz, who's been at Chelsea for longer than a year. But then you also see like Real Madrid, who were interested in him. Were they, or was that just agent talk? But I think there was some substance to the Real Madrid interest. Again, it's the Chelsea machine. And I think the thing that leaves a bad taste in Arsenal fans' mouths is it feels like they stacked up a little bit like American sports. They stacked up and now, you know, through their connections in Saudi are selling off assets. And that leaves another bad taste in fans' mouths, not only in terms of how they're doing business, how maybe they had this plot, this connection all along. Why would we, as some Arsenal fans and a lot of people in our chat right now are saying, why would we line Chelsea's pockets? Then the counter argument to that is, what do you care? It's not your money. And if we can build assets and acquire players who are going to help us, why'd you give a shit about the money part? But there's a moral issue for a lot of fans. I don't know, Kev. It's very blurred right now. This Saudi thing is kind of like cooking up a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, it is. And look, I think there's going to come a point where clubs have just got to concentrate on their own business. And look, Arsenal sending money Chelsea's way, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make any difference. Chelsea have got money. They've got pots of money, and they're going to be able to balance the books to some extent with some of those players going off to Saudi, and they're going to sell other players as well. So in a way, you've just got to leave that to one side. It's not really about what Chelsea do. It's about what Arsenal do. And you are looking potentially at a player who, as you say, is experienced in the league, technically gifted, a player that, despite the fact Chelsea have been all over the place to some extent in his time there, has still had some really big games, really big performances. And so you look at, would he be a good fit for Arsenal? No transfer is 100% guaranteed. No transfer is necessarily going to be perfect. But I think in terms of what Arsenal do as a football club, in terms of their attack, I do think he fits in. Is he going to come in and get 25 goals? No, probably not. But is he going to allow others space to get goals? Then yeah, because what he does is his movement is so clever, his passing is so good, his awareness is so good that suddenly Martinelli, Saka, Ødegaard, all of those little combinations, those little rotations, then that comes into play.
It really is incredible. Like Lone Star says, Kev, he's still only 24. There's certain players that feel like they've been around for so long, and he's still only 24 years old. He's won a Champions League. He's playing for Germany. Sometimes, like you said, you mentioned Salah, you mentioned Kevin De Bruyne. I'm leaning towards this part of the conversation because not every player works at every club. We've seen that, and we've seen a few disasters at Chelsea over the last few years. How does he make Arsenal? What is it that he provides that Mikel sees? But also, are we building a new team to challenge City versus you got United and Tottenham and Chelsea, who we feel like we conquered last season? Is Mikel Arteta like brewing like the genius wannabe Pep that he wants to be, to cook and challenge City next season? Because it looks like our midfield is going to be totally different for the new season. Super Kev, Campbell.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I'm ready.
Sorry, there's two Kevs here. I just see Mikel Arteta. He understands what happened last season, and any good management team will look at what you didn't do so well. It's all very well saying we've done great, and we did do great. But if you're going to be, if you don't get over the line and you want to improve, you've got to look at what didn't we do so good. And I think I mentioned it. We need more speed. We need more cohesion at the top end of the pitch. Kevin relayed to that about the connections and combinations. I think Havertz will play in the Granit Xhaka role. I think he's a better attacker than Granit Xhaka. And I thought Granit Xhaka had a sensational season. Mm-hmm. But in those big games and at big moments, we just didn't have enough at that top end of the pitch to hurt a Man City, to hurt a Manchester United away. That type of, to finish Liverpool off away from home. That type of thing. And defensively, when it really mattered, we just weren't at the races. Plus, we need a squad that could do well in the Champions League. We're a Champions League club now, again. So you need players, one, with experience, two, who's going to fit into what you want to do, and three, who's going to be able to, one, have the legs to play on all season, and two, have the experience to be in the Champions League, because that's really important to us as well.
Kevin Hatchard, what do you think? I love the outsider-insider perspective, because you've watched us a lot, you've watched Chelsea a lot, you've covered Havertz, in Germany and international level. You've seen what he can offer all the way around. One of the things I think that Arsenal fans have always been concerned about. And when you want to see a player like Balogun come in and get a chance, and Martinelli, when Arteta did put them into the side, they weren't surrounded by Patino the same, by the best 11. So then when they get their chance, they look a little weak, right? And, for us, Kai Havertz is totally different because he's not a Patino, he's not a Balogun, and he's not a Martinelli. He's got a lot more of that experience coming into play and have an immediate impact on our club. What do you think, though, about him coming in and us potentially losing Xhaka, of course, the Xhaka role he can play, but losing Partey? The core of our midfield may look totally different. What's your thoughts on a player like him coming into a situation like that?
Well, I think that's okay if Mikel Arteta has a plan for him. And I think, again, it's really interesting. I think there are a couple of things at work here. Balogun's a really interesting one, right? Because he's just obviously scored a lot of goals with Reims, did really, really well for them in Ligue 1. And so I can understand people would look at him and get excited, and that's absolutely the right thing. But when you're looking to build a squad, yes, there's an opportunity to give a guy like that a chance. But with Havertz, what you're looking at a guy that has scored a winning goal in the Champions League final. I know I keep coming back to that, but it's a pretty big moment in the player's career. There are lots of excellent players who've never been able to do that. So he's played in some of the biggest games going. He's excelled in some of the biggest games going. And he has that track record, and he's got 7 years of senior football under his belt. He's a pretty durable player. It's not as if he's had massive injury problems. That hasn't been the case. So what Kev says about the Xhaka role, I think is possible. And I think if you look at Cody Gakpo, for example, just to go left field a little bit, if you look at what's happened to him at Liverpool, he came in as a left winger. Everybody went, well, why have they brought him in? They've got Luis Diaz. They've got Nunez, who moves out to the left-hand side. Well, psych, he moved him into the centre and he played very, very well in that kind of Firmino connector role. So I think sometimes we get a little bit stuck when we've got an idea of a player in our heads and we say, oh, well, he can only do this or he can only do this. The top coaches never, ever look at it like that. I don't think. I think they look at players and think, well, he's got the skill set to do this or exactly what I would want from him. And one coach will want a certain thing from a centre forward or a 10. Another will want something completely and utterly different. Or they'll want multiple players in the same position who can do different things against different opponents. So, you're looking at an experienced player with a good track record, good technique, score goals in big games. Yes, there's trepidation because he's not been 100% consistent, but I can understand why Arteta's looking at him.
Super Kevin Campbell, are you concerned at all that we're kind of, or is this just the way of football? Ben White, centre back, right back, Zinchenko, inverted winger, left back, Tomiyasu, right back, left back, Kai Havertz, 8-6, whatever. Are we? We're not
8-9. Yeah, winger.
Is that like a good indication of the way the modern football is moving, and we're prepared for it, or are we building a team that maybe has too much versatility and not enough expertise in a position or an area? I ask that naively as well.
No, I think it's important for Mikel Arteta to be able to shift the squad about. I think that's really important. If ever he needs a bigger centre forward, we know Havertz can play there. Because sometimes that's been our issue, hasn't it? We need somebody up top who can challenge in the air, who can do this. And I'm not saying he's a Vlahovic or an Osimhen, but he can play centre forward. He's a bigger player as well, who can hold the ball up top. Do we want him there? Sometimes, probably not. But it's about manipulating your squad to get the best out of them. And certain games, you need certain players to play in maybe a different role. So I think it just adds to the flexibility of what Mikel Arteta wants to do.
Yeah, no, I'm learning a lot in terms of Havertz and Super Kevin Hatchard. What can you tell me about that? Maybe If you were to ask me what my shopping list was this summer, it would not have been Havertz. But I'm not a football manager, right? And I was definitely not an Arsenal fan that poo-pooed Ben White and Ramsdale and Tomiyasu. Super Kev and I got very engaged in that and said right off the bat, let's see where this goes. I mean, this is, clearly we're building for something. And it seems like Arsenal have definitely been doing that. And the evidence is there for everybody to see. Are we building for Champions League football, Kevin Hatchard? Are we building for Premier League football? Is it a bit of both? We're in a different dimension now. What does your expertise see here in terms of what you think Edu and Arteta are cooking?
Well, look, the way the league's gone, there is no longer a top four. That's absolutely not the case. What you've got now is a really competitive top end of the Premier League, and there are going to be clubs that take their medicine each season. It's happened to Tottenham in the season just gone. It's happened to Liverpool. It's happened to Chelsea. I think the days of this very solid top four, top five that we had, I think have gone. Now, if you're going to compete, you're going to have a strong squad. So I think he would be the kind of player that would come in and could go into the 11 and push the guys who are in there. Because what you don't want, and I always think this, what you don't want is just depth pieces. You don't want somebody who say, well, they could play 15, 20 games maybe, but they're not really going to push the guys in the team. I don't think that's how you move forward. So I think if you move from a position of strength and you bring in a guy like him, I think that's a smart move. Not every transfer works. This is not guaranteed if Havertz comes in. But do I understand why Arteta is making this move? Yeah. And I think there has to be trust. I think if they're at the point now where Arteta is absolutely their guy, and we are at that point now, then if he sees quality in a player and wants to bring them in, you have to trust that he's doing the right thing. The other thing I'd say about Havertz as well, for all of the army of Chelsea fans that I'm sure there are who say, he's rubbish, he never did anything for us and all of this, there's a reason why he gets linked with Real Madrid. There's a reason why he gets linked with Bayern. Because the top clubs see the skill set, see the quality, see the work rate, see the development, and think that's a player that could slot in to what they do. So I don't think we've seen the best of Kai Havertz. I genuinely don't. I remember thinking when he was scoring loads of goals for Leverkusen in the Bundesliga and playing for Germany as well, I remember thinking, this guy's going to be an absolute superstar. And we've seen it in flashes. And he's already had a better career than a lot of players will have. But there's more to come. And if he's 24, those best years are ahead of him. And there's no reason why he can't develop. Just an interesting point, by the way. I've seen a couple of comments go through.
They're flying in.
about we need a proper number 9. Now, I always find that really interesting because, and obviously, Kev knows this a hell of a lot better than me. But if you're going to do that, you have to cater to that. And I don't think Arsenal do that. I think Arteta has a very clear idea of what he wants a centre forward to do. So it may well be that you went out and got a proper number 9, whatever that means. And if it's just somebody who's purely focused on scoring goals, that doesn't do it for the team because it's not what Arteta wants and it's not how he plays. There's a reason why the wider players, Saka and Martinelli, get tons of goals because you have a centre forward that can drop, can play them in, can draw defenders out, can make spaces. That's what Arteta believes is a proper number 9. So I do think there has to be a shift in the thinking of some fans in terms of, well, I might have an idea of what a proper number 9 is, but what does my manager want and what does my manager think?
Kev, some people never learn, right? Some people never learn. And we said it last season, Arsenal score goals by committee.
Yeah,
you've got
that's it.
You've got Saka scoring. You've got Jesus who ended up on double figures. You've got Martinelli double figures. You've got Ødegaard on double figures. That's huge for a team. That took us to second in the league, and to give Manchester City a title run.
Yeah.
Now, if you can add another player who can get double figures, all of a sudden you're getting closer. Because what you've got to try and do, Manchester City have it all worked out. They know their defense is good. They've got Erling Haaland who scores goals for fun. And they know that they're going to get over the line because when Haaland doesn't score, Gundogan can score, Mahrez can score, Foden can score, Grealish can score. So they do it by committing in a different way.
Yeah.
We're learning our trade. We're now in the Champions League. We need that squad. And Arsenal fans, they never learn, Kev. I'm telling you, because we, as Sophie alluded to earlier, we've had it with so many different players who have come in. We don't need this one. We don't need that one. This one's been relegated to it. Don't matter.
No.
Don't look at what they're like out there. What are they going to be like in our building? That's the difference.
And if you look at Liverpool, for example, when they were absolutely at their height, and they may well get back to that under Jurgen Klopp, but when they were really, really dangerous, if Mane didn't get you, Salah would get you. If Salah didn't get you, Firmino would get you. And they'd have goals from midfield as well. Yeah. So that's what the top teams do. And I know Haaland's obviously got a ton of goals for Manchester City, but they won a load of trophies before him. And they did that by, as you say, committee. Yeah. You know, you have to now... You have to offer different threats. Harry Kane's just banged in a ton of goals for Tottenham. They finished 8th. They finished 8th because they don't have goals from midfield, really, and they don't have enough of a threat elsewhere. So if you do get wrapped up in that, in that idea of just one... Napoli have just run away with Serie A, right? And everybody is saying, you know, Osimhen was amazing, and he was. Absolutely he was, right? But Kvaratskhelia got loads of goals. You had contributions from guys like Simeone, Raspadori up front. You had loads of goals from midfield as well. That's how you do it these days. And actually, I say these days, that's kind of how it's always been done, really. I think the best teams have always been the teams that genuinely could hurt you in lots and lots of different ways.
Brilliant stuff from our good friend Kevin Hatchard, who you can find here at Kevin Hatchard on all social media. Super Kevin Hatchard, what is it you're doing next season? Are we going to still see you on UEFA.com? You're going to do Bundesliga stuff? Do you know yet? What's the scoop?
Yeah, unless I've been sacked. Hopefully it'll all be the same stuff. So, yeah, I'll be heading over to Germany a fair bit for Bundesliga. Still doing some Premier League. Love the Champions League show for UEFA. That's one of my favourite gigs. So I'll be on that as well. Brilliant. And a lot of the Betfair work too. So, yeah, keep him busy.
Lovely. And, of course, I always look forward to your Eurovision Song Contest breakdown every year.
Of course.
So, Cyprus, terrible entry this year, but we'll talk about that another time. Mr. Kevin Hatchard,
always next year. There's always
next year. I think we go more traditional next year, Kev. Thanks so much for joining us and taking time out of your summer to hang out. And we'll talk to you again before the season starts, Kev.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Take care. Brilliant stuff from Kevin Hatchard there. Please go follow him. He's brilliant. Just when I say European football expert, Kev, you'll back me up here. He's one of the best. Definitely one of the best.
Cool.
Speaking of one of the best, it's time for this, Kev. It's time for a little bit of this. Tom Canton, Spence Dixell. Surely not. Is he here? I think he is. There he is, Mr. Canton, back in the house. Welcome to
How we doing?
Central. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Right,
I mean, wow, a double Kev. I don't think you could get much better than that. Triple Kev? Can we try and get a triple Kev at some stage?
No, that's too much. I was getting muddled up with Kev there.
Even I was getting muddled up to the point where they didn't know when I was asking the questions and to whom. Terrible host this evening. Tom Canton.
Do you know what my middle name is? Do you want to take a guess what my middle name is?
Kevin.
No, it's James. I'm only joking.
Oh. And people don't think you have a sense of humor, Tom. I mean, seriously, they just don't know you, do they? What's happening out in the trenches? Has it calmed down? Because it felt like David Ornstein just, took the grenade, threw it into the dressing room, ran out of the stadium. Bosh, deal with that, Arsenal fans. Havertz, Rice, Lavia, Partey leaving. What's going on? Super Tom.
It's all a bit, yeah, it's good. You know, I think it's good. I think this is really good stuff to see Arsenal so active at the beginning of the window. We know that we need to get our business done quick and early on before we go away on our trips and travels to Germany and the United States as well. So the fact that Arsenal are bidding, doing talks, you know, having these discussions, trying to build the squad, executing their plan this early on in the stage of the window is very much appreciated from an Arsenal fan perspective, and certainly they're doing that. That said, the fallout I seen over the weekend has been quite special. I think last Thursday when we saw the Thursday was the bid announced, the bid rejected, the Kai Havertz situation, the Caicedo withdrawal of interest, all of that stuff. Thursday was one of the worst days to cover Arsenal. It was chaotic. And then we've had kind of the weekend to chill with the international break, of course, going on, which has slowed things down somewhat. So, yeah, it's been chaotic, but it's what we expect from an Arsenal transfer window.
All right. So, Super Kevin Campbell and Tom, are you guys okay? So, you know, we're talking about this young player who I'm very excited about, by the way. 500 in live chat. Please do hit kiss like that button. This was a picture last season of Edu barbecuing. I want to see him barbecuing and cooking up some stuff again this season. I just like putting this up because I know it pisses people off and, you know, it's very pleasant. I almost feel like, are people leaving because this guy's coming? You know, this gladiator's going. And the biggest bomb of all that was dropped, Super Kevin Campbell, was Thomas Partey to add to all of it.
Listen, I'm like I said earlier on, Mikel Arteta maybe looked at the squad. You've got to review the season, and we had a really good season. But you've got to look at what did we lack when it mattered. What did we lack? And maybe we lacked a bit of energy come the end. We look kind of dead on our feet. So maybe that is just saying, look, we've got two 30-year-olds in the center of the pitch. We need to freshen it up. So do I agree with Partey? No, I think Partey could be a real big player for us next season. But the manager is the one who's going to make all the decisions. At the end of the day, Lavia, really good player. We see how good he was, especially at the Emirates. He was excellent. And, you know, Southampton didn't have a great season, but he did. You look at Declan Rice, you look at Caicedo, if you can get him. If they left and Gundogan came in, then you could understand, couldn't you? You're getting him on a free. And, you know, you're bringing in probably more experience in Gundogan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just on the treble. He's won titles. He's won Champions League now. He's got it all. So, again, what's going on in the background, I don't know. But I've got to say, I've got to trust the manager and Edu. I've got to trust them because you know what? We're getting there. We're getting there. We're not where we want to be, but we're getting there. And he obviously recognizes that engine room just wasn't right.
So, Tom, Kev has been talking about our midfield for quite some time now. And he's always felt that is, you know, kind of like the nucleus, the hub for us, especially kind of when you look at Manchester City's title-winning teams, Liverpool's title-winning team, Champions League winning team. Everything that was great about what they did stemmed from that midfield area. Are you shocked that are we pulling the Band-Aid off too quickly? Because I like change personally. And I think that, you know, Xhaka had a great season, but prior to that, most Arsenal fans would have welcomed seeing some type of elevated replacement. If I'm being honest on this show, I've questioned Thomas Partey's consistency. You know, we had Josh from A Burkout Wonderland on here on our tactical squads telling Kevin that what's the point in having a Ferrari in the garage if it doesn't have proper tires and you can't go out and drive it all the time? What are we changing too much too quickly? Is this something that you fear, Tom?
I think there's absolutely a reason to be a little concerned. Losing the two starting players that got you into a title race and it was a key part of that team, and then replacing them in the same window and expecting a seamless transition or an upgrade, you know, there's a lot of unknown factors, I think, when it comes to that. So I am surprised that Arsenal are open to changing both of their starting deep central midfielders. It gives us a lot more work to do in the window as well. From the start of the window, I was saying, if Partey's staying, we need at least 2 centre mids, not including Havertz. If you don't include him as a midfielder, I think you needed 2, and that was Rice, and then Andor, Gundogan, or Lavia, or Caicedo, one of those 3, in addition to Rice. If Partey goes, I think you need 3. And I think that even though we have Jorginho, and even though technically Lokonga's still here and Elneny's not going anywhere, we need to add strength in depth. And that's what was always going to be key going into this season. So it is a risk, but it seems we're taking a few risks during this window. And to be honest, I've called on Arsenal to be a bit riskier, take a few more gambles in windows, because I think sometimes we've been too safe. And we've not spent the big money on some, players that maybe not everybody's going to be keen on, and that it's a bit of a risk. Yes, it's going to fall in Arteta's lap if it doesn't go well, because he's the one that's, driving force behind who he wants, with Edu trying to deliver what he wants. But at the end of the day, I've got plenty of reason to trust what the decisions are, hence why we are where we are as a club now. And I am going to be behind these decisions, and I am curious to see how they work out, if they work out. And if they don't happen, I'll be one of the first to hold my hand up and say, this isn't good enough. We needed to do more.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a long way to go until September 1, Super Kevin Campbell. And there's going to be, it seems to me like maybe after the England games, and this is maybe naive Sophie, that Declan Rice will be announced before he goes off onto his summer vacation to Mykonos, where he will have lovely kebabs and drink a little Retsina and have a nice relaxing time before he comes to the USA for the summer tour. Don't let me down, Arsenal.
Give him some Ouzo.
Listen, Kev, if this one doesn't happen, I think it'll be worse than Mudryk. I'm just saying. It will be worse than Mudryk.
Hey, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But
no, Kev, no.
Oh,
No.
Hey, listen. Hold on. Can I finish?
Yes, you may. Of course.
He's Arsenal's number 1 priority.
You can finish.
He's Arsenal's number 1 priority. That's who they want. I think is going to happen. But if it doesn't happen, if it didn't happen, should I say, if it didn't happen, life goes on.
Does it?
It does. He's not the only central midfielder. He's my first choice, and I've said this before. Remember when we had him or Bellingham? I said Rice.
You did. You could.
I said Rice. I really rate this guy. I really do. But again, there's a lot of clubs in for this guy, and you just never know what's going to happen. Until I see him with that Arsenal shirt on.
Okay, okay, maybe it's the ex-player in you, and I don't know. I mean, Tom and I, pretty professional broadcasters, journalists here. However, even the South London boy fan in you, Super Kev, if this doesn't happen, this is a disaster. Tom, are you going to back me up on this one? I think
I was going to use that exact word. If Arsenal don't sign Declan Rice, it's a disaster. I agree in the sense of, Kev, life goes on, sure, and they have to pivot like they pivoted with previous players like Mudryk to Trossard, which worked out, more so in our favour and fine. But this window is so important for this football club, like in terms of moving in the direction from what we've built from last season. And months of work has gone in behind the scenes with this Declan Rice deal. And he wants to join Arsenal. His preference is Arsenal. If Arsenal can't do this deal, it would be a massive hit to the reputation of the likes of Edu. Massively so. And there would not be too much of a defence against it either. I'm not in the camp of right now thinking that's going to happen. I know a lot of people are. I'm personally very optimistic about the Declan Rice deal, but I can't sit here and pretend like it wouldn't be a disaster if we didn't sign him, because there's so much emphasis on this. There's so much work that's gone into it. And there's so much rhetoric behind Edu and, the need to prove to people that we can get those big deals done, that he has to get this deal done. And Arsenal need to get this deal done. The Caicedo thing, for those that expected both of them, and I certainly thought Arsenal might have been capable of it, but with the fees that are being talked about, 100+ million for both, is ludicrous, frankly.
Moved
So
Caicedo's price, haven't they? Yep.
Exactly. They've absolutely hiked it. And I don't have any issue with Brighton necessarily doing that because they've got a right to charge what they want to charge for their player. It's unlikely they're going to get a fee close to that for anybody else, in the near future, even though their recruitment's been very good. But you can't expect Arsenal to go 100 million plus on 2 players this window, and if they don't do that, suddenly it's a massive scathing criticism that the club is worthy of. No, but Declan Rice, we know there's a willingness from Arsenal to pay the money to get it done. We know that Declan Rice is so fully convinced on Arsenal. You can't put in all that work and not get it done. So, yeah, I agree. So it would be a massive disaster if Arsenal weren't to get Rice this window.
I do too. And if we don't, this is the biggest battle of all, right? Is because clearly Mudryk wanted to come, but in the end, money spoke, right? Money talks and bullshit walks. Super Kevin Campbell. And, we're seeing the Saudis throw money at players who are at the twilight of their career, which, by the way, for all the MLS haters out there, everyone taking the piss out of MLS football because players come here, now players going to Saudi. I wish MLS had a different financial structure because all of those players would have loved to come to play here in the United States. It's an amazing lifestyle. You love it here. It's pretty cool. But now they're going to Saudi, which feels like a startup, right? So I'm starting a company, a new film company. You can go work for Universal Pictures, or, you can come and work for my startup. I mean, it just seems to me that this window that we're dealing with is unlike any other, Super Kevin Campbell. Unlike any other.
Yeah, they do change. Obviously, they change by the year. Now you're seeing a big player in the Saudi league that are, Ruben Neves, who we've been linked with in the midfield. He's left Wolves and got out there. He's earning 4 times his wage. You can't knock players for that. It's a short career. It really is. And, if you can earn that sort of money, probably, what is he, 25, 26, Ruben Neves? Even if he's out there a couple of seasons, he still can come back and do a bit, but his bank account is like, full, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. America's a fantastic way of life, really good league, really good place to ply your trade. But just like anything, it's every single off season we're seeing is changing year in, year out, and it's what makes football so brilliant.
Tom Canton, if we're looking at the trajectory here, it's going to be there's a lot going on between now and September 1, but I want to stick with Declan Rice for a little bit. Do you feel like it's a case of them waiting until after the England stuff to announce it? Or do you feel like City are truly in this fight? Is there anyone in this dogfight to fight us and the player?
Well, City are monitoring the situation. I think they might wait and see what Arsenal agree with West Ham in the end in terms of a fee, and then they might chuck in another bid that's equal and say, Rice, if you want to make the decision to come to us, you can. I think the advantage that Arsenal have, as I mentioned before, the work they've done behind the scenes with the player, is the massive advantage they've got. But there's also, and that for me is the key thing. Before we had that situation with Mudryk in January where Shakhtar just were waiting for a team to come in and pay that 100 million euro price that they had, and Arsenal said they wouldn't match it. And Shakhtar basically said, kind of to Mudryk, if you want to leave, you got to go Chelsea. Arsenal aren't matching a figure, and we're not accepting a figure that Arsenal are putting forward. So because Mudryk's desire to move to the Premier League was bigger than his desire to just wait for Arsenal, he made the switch to the Premier League with Chelsea. With Rice, it's a different scenario because whatever happens this summer, West Ham have promised Rice he can go, and Rice's choice is Arsenal. So it's now down to Arsenal and West Ham to agree a figure. Now, what West Ham want is for teams to come in and bid. so that it forces Arsenal to then up their bids and you get into a bidding war scenario. That's not happening because teams know that Declan Rice wants Arsenal. So because of that situation, what's the point in them bidding? There's no point in another team bidding for Declan Rice right now until Arsenal effectively agree something they're willing to pay. Then you might see another team come in and match that bid just to give the kind of throw their hat into the ring and, as if they tried sort of thing. But Arsenal are so far and away the favourites for this. That's why I'm so optimistic about it. And that's why I say it would be such a disaster if it didn't happen. So, it's I think that with the international break on right now, or the break, it's not even a break because the season's over, but with the international scene on right now, and with Havertz as well, who's played, they've had 3 games, I think, Germany, Colombia, they play tomorrow. I think after these games are done, we hopefully might see a bit more movement on it. But I still think it's more down to West Ham probably really irritating Arsenal right now, just kind of holding out for something that may not even happen.
Right. Tom, can I ask you, is there a reason that potentially you've got Xhaka and Thomas Partey leaving? My Greek self, going into a little Greek mythology here, is saying that we're doing that because he's coming. The only reason we're totally blowing up our midfield is because actually this guy's coming. For those listening on audio, it's the Manchester City captain who lifted all their trophies this season. This young fella is coming, and so is Declan Rice.
Name him, Soph.
Levia, who I love, by the way. Well, don't get me too excited on that because I'm very excited about him. I think he's a total baller. Tom, is this why this is happening?
I'm not confident on Gundogan. My prediction would be, if I was a better man, that he stays at City and signs a new contract with them. And if not that, then probably Barcelona, to be honest. I think we're third favourites in that, to be honest. So I'm sorry to burst your balloon a bit there.
Sure,
so,
that's fine. Okay. But what about this young fella? I think a lot of Arsenal fans last season were like, "Oh, I'd love Levia at Arsenal. I'd love Levia at Arsenal." He has the same agent as Star Boy. Seems to love the Arsenal. Wants to play. Is this a done deal? This one? Do you feel?
I mean, Arsenal are very interested. I think that this is kind of if Partey goes, they'll move for Lavia sort of thing. I think that they look at Gundogan. They've made an offer for Gundogan, obviously, in terms of a contractual offer. Rice is the priority. Havertz is there as well. If either Gundogan, say, doesn't happen or Partey goes, in addition to that, I think they'll probably look at Lavia. There's suggestions that there's already been talks. There's no bids or anything like that been made for Lavia at the moment. It's not advanced in that sense with the Lavia side of things. He's just kind of up there as one of the top targets. I think that he's a great player. It's ironic that people say he's inexperienced because he's played, in terms of Premier League experience. He's only about 6 months off what Caicedo has. So I don't really get the whole inexperience thing. Caicedo came in January of 2022 he came in. Was it not 2021? January 22. So
22, end of 21, 22,
And Lavia's been in the starting 11 of Southampton all this season, besides a small portion of the season that he was out injured, I think, in the first half of the campaign. And other than that, he started pretty much most of all of their other games. So if we're saying that Lavia is inexperienced, yet people are willing to chuck 100 million at Caicedo, I don't necessarily get that argument. He's shown some really, really strong abilities in a side that have really struggled this year as well. And I think, Brighton as a club have really stood out for their team ethic, the way in which they press, the way in which they're all playing in harmony. Southampton have been a mess, for so much of this campaign. And Lavia has stood out in that. He's really good on the ball. He's really good at winning fouls because he's really good at taking the ball away from players. Technically good. But there are lots of parts of his game that still need to be refined. He needs to be better in the final third. He needs to be more threatening when he moves into the final third. He needs to be better with his progressive passing and stuff like that. But that will come. But the talent is undoubtedly there. When he came to the Emirates with Southampton, he shone beyond pretty much everyone else on the pitch that day. He was absolutely excellent. So I'm not surprised Arsenal are looking at Lavia. I think people underrate him if they talk about inexperience, and yet they were desperate to see Caicedo, who's only been in the league 6 months more than him. And I think that in terms of, the moving out of Partey and Xhaka, I also think there is an element of Partey has 2 years left on his contract. Xhaka's also got a year and a bit. I think they probably have an option on that as well left on his deal. They know that if they're going to invest big, they also need to stop losing players for no money. So if Partey moves this summer, it's probably the most money we're going to make for him. If he moves to Saudi, there's a good chance that we'll get a good amount of money for him as well, because they're paying over the odds for players at the moment. And the same goes for Xhaka. That's £13 million for Xhaka. You know, Roma were offering like 8 million euros like a year prior to that to try and sign him. So 13 million quid, 15 million euros is not that bad of a price for Xhaka if he's going to move on and he wants to move on with a year or so left on his deal. And to get, say, 25, 30 million plus for Partey would be a good bit of business on financially for Arsenal that way as well. And then we can obviously replace him with Rice, and Jorginho's there for depth, and Lavia comes in, and we can bring in hopefully another midfielder on top of that too. And you can change the structure to include Havertz in there with Ødegaard potentially if you play similar to how Bayer Leverkusen played when he was there. So all of those things combined.
What does that mean for this young fella? That's the biggest thing, right? So we also saw him talk about his injury, his surgery, when, you know, how long it's been bothering him for. Super Kevin Campbell, you've always said and been consistent that Emile Smith-Rowe is in the plans, even talked about how he's been trained in the Xhaka role. Again, there's going to be a lot of football, 2 domestic cups, Premier League, Champions League football. Another case of Martinelli recovering from an injury and being managed properly. Is that your take still, Kev? Yeah,
it's still my take. It's always going to come down to when he crosses that white line, he's got to be able to do the business. Because now our team have moved on, and we're Champions League. We're a Champions League team now. So the squad players, when they get their chance, they better do the business. That's what it's going to come down to. We know he's got quality. We know how good he can be. But now the levels in our team are moving up. He's going to have to be that guy to get in the team. So, you know, it's sink or swim, Soph. This is the thing. Getting connections with these guys is great. But as you move on and the levels start to get higher, these guys have to do the business when they cross the white line, or else.
Speaking about levels getting higher and players doing the business, according to all of our super squaddies, Mr. Saka, star boy, scored a hat-trick for England. And is he still on the pitch? Why is he still playing? Take him off, please.
The third goal is insane, Sophie. Like, I've just been able to catch it.
I've heard it's a banger. It's a worldie. Is it? What's it?
Yeah,
how's it?
A long ball over the right-hand side, drops down. He's just outside the box. He takes it down with his right foot, cuts it on his left. The ball's still bouncing, and on the half volley, he just slams it past the keeper. Like, there's no chance. It's amazing strike. Yeah.
Do you know why he slammed it the way he has? Because I think that's Bukayo saying, right, is it time for my holiday? Can I just get a vacation? Me and my mates here, can we just go on holiday? I really need a rest. I'm waiting for listen, this boy, get your speedboat, get your yacht, wherever you
get 4 weeks. 4 weeks off. Go on.
We don't want to see him.
I don't want to see you for 4 weeks.
Don't want to see him till mid-July, Kev. Mid-July, at least.
4 weeks. Go and enjoy yourself. See you later.
Yeah. See you later. I mean, what a superstar this kid is. You could talk about all these players, right? And Tom Canton, I want you to talk us through this, because we always are obsessed with who's coming in. We got Saka to sign. We've got Martinelli to sign. We've got Ramsdale to sign. We've got Saliba to sign. Hopefully, Ødegaard's next. Benjamin White is next. I missed someone. You just said their name. Gabriel, thank you so much. And then, you know, what about the players that we need to get out? What's happening? What's happening with the sales in order to make some of this other stuff happen, Tom Canton?
Well, the Kieran Tierney thing's gone very quiet, first of all. And I think that's maybe, you know, Newcastle's funds apparently aren't as great as maybe many people thought they were going to be this summer.
It's all tied up in live golf. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Yeah, or Chelsea.
Chelsea.
I think that they're apparently looking at Mark Cucurella as a potential option. I saw a report coming from a Northern paper earlier on this week. And I'm not surprised. You know, Tierney's price and injury record mean that a high price for him is a risk. So I'm not surprised they move for someone else. But if he stays, that's fine, because he's a great option for us at left back still. You know, he offers us something different to Zinchenko. And I think, you know, if he was to go, get a good fee, great. If he stays, we've got a good player, great. You know, it's a win-win scenario, I think, from Arsenal in either perspective. On the others, if anyone's panicking about why players aren't leaving, I'd say don't, because the amount of players that we've got that are the type of player that leave towards the end of the window, you'd run out of fingers trying to count them. Players like Rob Holding and Lokonga and Tavares, players like who else have we got that could go? Austin Trusty, Cedric. These types of players they're for teams that haven't got their priority target. They're for teams that are desperate at the end of the window, if we're honest, with all due respect to them. Cedric isn't anyone's priority. Rob Holding isn't anyone's priority. These are players that tend to move in the last few weeks of the window when teams need to bring in a player. So I'm not panicking on their presence in the squad all the way through until toward the end of the window, because they're the type of players that clubs will sign in that latter stage. So Arsenal know that. Arsenal are just getting their business done. In terms of following Balogun, though, I really would rather not see him leave now. I think it's probably.
I was going to come on to my boy, who hates me, I think. But it doesn't matter. I love that he may hate me. Hate me more. I'll ask all the right questions and the wrong ones too.
He doesn't hate you at all.
Let me tell you, guys, he's a star. But Super Kev and Tom, he backs it up. I've been so impressed with his coldness, his ruthlessness, his handling of himself, how he walks, how he talks, how he trains, everything. I don't know why Super Kevin Campbell. He reminds me of you. He's like a hybrid of you and Righty. Why are we letting this guy go? And let me tell you something. Wait. Hold on one second. Hold on. Let me finish. In the first game against Mexico, you could tell it was new, right? He's just starting off. He's just playing with these players. It was frustrating. His runs were a little off. But to see him adjust the way he did to a far superior team in Canada right now, who everybody has been lauding, and by the way, outshone Jonathan David, okay, in this tournament. His movement was sensational. His touch was sublime. Off the ball, he was great. To see him make the adjustments from the first game, I was super impressed, Super Kevin Campbell.
Sophie, is he a good player? Yes, he is. We know that. The key is he's got to come back into our building and we need to have a look at him. He said he's not going on loan, which I get. Totally understand. Key is, will he be happy being a squad player? That's the question.
No, he won't.
Of course he won't. So it's not a matter of we want him to go. It's a matter of he wants to play. That's the difference. He's tasted that. He tasted that sugar now. He wants to play. He wants to be the main man. Will he be the main man at Arsenal? I don't think he's got the game like Jesus has. But could he do a job? Of course he could. I think he's got all the tools and the talent to do it. But he needs time. That's what he needs. He needs a bit of time. And maybe he won't give himself the time at Arsenal solely because he wants to play now. So that's the only reason why I think we lose him, is because he wants to start.
Tom, there's no doubt he wants to start. You and I have had conversations. We've been talking, while he's been here as well. I just find that up front, how do you juggle this? And this is my football brain trying to understand it. Gabriel Jesus adds so much to this team. We were far superior with him in the team last season, and the goals came from other places. And I think a lot of the times because of him. And then when there's a plan B requirement, you kind of, a lot of fans think, oh, we could still really have done with that Giroud player or the Vlahovic player or the Tammy Abrams player or the Ivan Toney player. If Tierney's going to lob crosses in, who's going to header the ball in, etc., etc. There's something about this guy being the Haylender as well. And I know he wants to start, but when you're building a team in your Champions League and everyone keeps telling me Mikel Arteta is going to convince all these players, they're all going to get a shot, they're all going to get a chance. Why isn't he as convinced? What's happening?
It's an interesting one. To be fair, in any interview that he's done, and you've been there for obviously one of them, in which I think you're not
Had
on
to
his Christmas
repeat my
card list
had to
anymore.
repeat my question. Yeah.
I'm only kidding. I think he's just a bit tired of all those questions about his future, to be honest. So I'm not surprised he was a little prickly. But I think that he's never come out and said that his intention is to leave Arsenal. He's not said that once. He's not said that there's no place for me at Arsenal. We've had conversations, and I'm looking now to. He's never said that once. He's never closed the door on Arsenal. He's never closed the door on the idea of continuing with the club. All he said is that he doesn't want to leave on loan and that he wants to play minutes. And for me, if I was to put Eddie Nketiah and Balogun side by side and go, who do I think has got the biggest ceiling? Who do I think is going to go on and score more goals if they're playing week in, week out for a top club? And the answer, I think, is obvious at this point, and it's Balogun. I think Eddie Nketiah was given a really good run of games when Jesus was out. He scored 4 Premier League goals during that period, 2 of them in the same game against Man United, and they were 2 big goals for us. Don't get that twisted. But I think if Balogun is playing over a consistent period of time in a side like Arsenal, I think he probably does score more goals. I think his younger age, his higher ceiling, I think his confidence is sky high. And I also think that if he doesn't come into the team, and maybe one of the reasons is actually down to Arteta, and I'm always one of the first to highlight Arteta's strengths, but I think we can agree that one of Arteta's weaknesses is his rotation, is his in-game management, is his substitutions. And that's part of his management that I think does need to improve and develop. I think that maybe if Balogun saw a coach, say like Pep Guardiola, for instance, who is an absolute world-class expert in rotating his team, in making substitutions. You look at Julian Alvarez, right, at Manchester City. If you're Julian Alvarez and you've been signed a year and a bit before Erling Haaland comes in, it's interesting that when Erling Haaland came in, he's not gone, I've got to find a way out of it because I'm never going to play. Because that's not happening at Man City. Because if you play at Man City, you get chances. And yes, I know that Julian Alvarez can also play in potentially a wider area, which has given him more opportunities. But I think he's got 17 goals for Man City this past season, Alvarez has. And that's with Erling Haaland in the team. So I think that from Balogun's perspective, Nketiah is the obstacle. I think the club, if they are smart, get a good 20 million plus fee for Nketiah this summer. First game of the season, Jesus starts, comes off after an hour, and we bring on Balogun for the last 30 minutes. And that process repeats. Balogun starts to get more starts in the Champions League group stages. If you want to rotate Saka out and put Jesus on the wing and start Balogun there, great. Jesus is basically a winger that plays striker. So I've got no issue if you want to rotate Saka or Martinelli, give them rests, put Jesus in a wide area and put Balogun through the middle. Fine. I think that that's what it's about for Arteta this season, is proving to people that he can rotate and change teams more effectively. And I think if he'd done that already, maybe a player like Balogun would be more convinced that he'd get chances. But because that's not yet happened, I'm not sure that he does see that. But if I was Arteta, I'd be saying to Balogun that they obviously have watched him so much this season. They think he's done a brilliant job. Give us a chance to show you that we can give you the time to flourish. And if they're not convinced by him, that's shame on them rather than shame on Balogun personally.
Yeah. I mean, you know what is also great about Balogun, Super Kev? He's lifted a trophy. He held that trophy tight. We always say sports is about winning. Everyone's introduced the Nations League and made federations, make it feel like it counts and it's important. We saw what that meant to Spain versus Croatia in Europe. He's got a taste of winning, and he feels, let me tell you something, they've made him feel like the main man out here, like the superstar, the missing link. He feels the love. And that was why I asked him the question about love. And he said that he's always felt welcomed and loved at the Arsenal. And it's just about how his footballing future is going to pan out here. But wouldn't your advice to him maybe say, stay a year and fight for spot? Fight for it?
You could say that. But the problem is always he's tasted the sugar. He knows what it's like to be the main man. Because you know what? If you're sitting on the bench and you're not getting, and things aren't going well, then you say to yourself, well, I could have been the main man somewhere else. I don't think the problem is Arsenal's. I think the problem's with Balogun. Balogun has to see, okay, listen, I love it at the Arsenal. I want to be part of it. I'm happy to knuckle down. That's the question. Arsenal keeping him, I think Arsenal would love to keep him. But if he doesn't want to be a squad player, then they're going to have to sell.
Yeah. Let me tell you, that game was a baptism of fire for Balogun. That USA v Mexico match was insane. He's like, wow, this is he's never experienced anything like that. You would talk about a hostile environment in your own country as well, by the way. I mean, this is different levels of rivalry, and that was a massive learning lesson for him. And he loved every second of it. It was a huge win as well. Yeah, it was massive. And, the only, sidebar, but the only mistake the US men's national team did was bringing their old manager back. But that's a conversation for another day. Right. I think that's all we have time for tonight, because I do believe Super Kev has another show to go on to. Yep. And I do believe Super Tom, has been talking since 8 a.m. people.
I've got Love Island to watch.
Love Island talk. Here's what's happening with the Highbury Squad talk. This is our last Monday Madness for 2 weeks. There's almost 660 of you in live chat. And yes, I'm going to wave goodbye to all of you. Monday Madness is going to be back in a couple of weeks. I will stay on for a couple of minutes just to let you guys know what's going to happen during the summer. But I'm going to let Tom go, and I'm going to let Super Kev go. And I'm going to just stay for 5 minutes to let you guys know what's happening with the show during the summer. So, who wants to go first? I'm going to let Super
I'm going to have to.
Go on,
I'm going to have to, because I'm going to have to shoot.
Say hi to Dor for us.
Yeah, I will do. Squaddies, look after yourself. Have a lovely summer. Tom, thanks for coming on again. Absolutely top class. Sophie, hostess with the mostess as always. And you, Squaddies, hit the like button, caress it, slide it in the corner for the Arsenal. See you in a couple of weeks. God bless you. Lots of love.
Talk to you later, Kev. Take care. All right, Kev. Super Kev out. All right, now Super Tom saying his goodbyes as well. Super Tom Canton. Everyone's a super today, by the way, because of the Kev thing. So, Love Island. Love Island, eh?
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure is what it is.
I have one. I have my guilty pleasure.
It's like I openly say I watch it because I know how much judgment people have for people that watch it. And I'm like, you got more things in the world to care about than what other television programs people like. So, leave off.
My guilty pleasure is Below Deck.
Yeah, I watch that when it's on Gogglebox. That's about it.
Is that the thing where people watch stuff and they talk?
Yeah, you watch people watching TV is what you do. Yeah. Yeah.
So are those people celebrities now too?
They do a celebrity Gogglebox as well. Yeah. It's so like Micah Richards and Jamie Carragher were on it once and were hilarious. Like so genuinely brilliant. Like you got Rob Beckett, who's a comedian here in the UK and a big Arsenal fan. He was on the last one wearing his classic 90s Arsenal shirt as well. So yeah, it's
well, maybe during the summer we'll do a guilty pleasure TV show and we'll get Tom Canton back. Tom, everyone can find you, your morning show. If you're under a rock, I don't know what to say to you. Here you go, at Tom Canton Media and at the Gooner Talk TV. What you got coming up tomorrow?
So tomorrow we'll be talking a bit more about the Declan Rice situation and why it's been a bit quiet, obviously with the England games finished, with Saka scoring a hat-trick tonight, showing you what a great job we've done to secure him and others up to a new contract. We've got some guests coming on in shows this week. Fingers crossed we're going to have Elliot from the Arsenal Vision podcast this weekend. A couple of guests coming on Thursday as well, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, lots to come. But always 8 a.m. UK time over on TGT. Thanks, Soph, as always.
You're welcome. Thanks. Are you going to Copenhagen? Matt Roberts
I am next week.
Revealing.
Yeah, next week, 28th to the 30th. So
very nice.
I'll still be doing a show, but we'll be out in Denmark. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, safe travels, enjoy, and I'm off too tomorrow. But thanks for coming on, and we'll see you soon, Tom.
Pleasure. See you later, Squaddies. Bye.
Okay, bye. And then there was one, just me, just moi. I just wanted to say a couple things to you guys. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let's do this before I do that. Camera. Nope. Audio. Hold on one second. I don't know what I'm doing here. Give me a minute, guys, because I want to tell you guys some stuff. All right. There we go. All right. So thank you to everyone who's popped in. Thank you to everyone. Let me just say, I haven't done a video thanking you guys at all. So I just wanted to say, before I go off on holiday for a couple of weeks, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to the Highbury Squad all season. If it wasn't for you guys, there wouldn't be a show, but you know that already. I love you to bits and bobs and then some. Oh, look, it's super close up. I was trying to get myself farther away. I can't begin to tell you like what you've meant to me this season. And it's been a season unlike any other for me, because I had a lot of stuff going off the pitch than I did on, which is why sometimes I have sympathy for players, and we all do that. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on in our lives, and I just wanted to say thank you to you guys, because you have helped me get through this season. There's no doubt about it. We had a very, very traumatic health situation, as you guys know, and so many of you sent me beautiful letters and messages and gifts. As you saw, the big pillow from Magic Mike. It was just the way you wrapped your arms around me during a really hard time meant everything, and I can't begin to tell you how thankful I am for that. I want to be really honest and candid about exactly what happened. So there was, we were told that Tony had terminal cancer, and that she didn't have, a long time to live. And that, as you can imagine, was horrific. And that happened around Christmas time. And so we had lived through the difficulties of what was happening health wise before that. And, around Christmas time, that happened, and it was really bad. And it went on for like three months, probably around March time. We went for more tests, and subsequently, we were told that they made a mistake. So we lived for about 4 months thinking that, our future was very different to what we think it is now. And I think that was the time where I wrote you guys and I said, I don't know how the show's going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do shows. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to change. And, things just kind of took a different level of direction. And I'm a bit all over the place right now because I'm trying to explain something that has happened behind the scenes. But this show and you helped me go and keep going. So now we're on a different path. We're on a different health trajectory. We may have better solutions. We look like we're going to have, a little bit more of, options in terms of what exactly is happening with Tony's health. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that, because you deserve to know that, because you reached out to me during a really difficult time. So I hope I've articulated this properly. It's been insane. It's been crazy. And then with Arsenal's journey and the season that we had, I hope you guys can also see and understand that at times when people wanted me to be angry with maybe not winning the league, when people wanted me to be angrier at us, not beating Southampton at home, when people wanted me to be a little bit more lit about how the season ended, to me, I felt like I already won. I felt like we already won. So the way the season ended felt like a bit of a win as well. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to every single one of you. I don't know if you've gone through anything like that. And if you have, it's just a really horrific experience and situation. But we're one of the lucky ones in the sense that we've come out of it the other side. And, this is it. So I just wanted to share exactly what happened, because you guys send me a lot of notes and a lot of letters about your lives and what you're going through and what you experience and all the different things that you go through. And let me tell you something. I think what makes you a good broadcaster is being honest and authentic with your audience. And I feel like the more that I can be that way, the better our relationship is. And the more we can cultivate a really cool, authentic community that just is there for each other. So that's it. And guess what? We're going to go and celebrate. We're going to piss off to Italy tomorrow. Yes. We are flying off. Actually, we're going to Vienna first. So we're going to stop off in Vienna. If there are any gooners out there in Vienna, if you've got any recommendations, let me know. Then we're going to hit up Rome. We're going to go to Venice. And then we're going to go to the Amalfi Coast. I'm going to swim in the Mediterranean. And we're going to have wine. I'm going to eat pasta. I'm going to mix carbs. Yes, that's right. I'm going to mix carbs. I'm going to have pasta and bread together. Bosh. I'm going to mix it all up. And I'm going to put on, 5 or 8 pounds? And I'm not going to worry about it. So, thank you, squaddies, every single human who has listened to the Highbury Squad this season. And let me tell you, next season, it's going to be even better. It's going to be even bigger. And we're going to keep smashing it. I could do transfer shows every single day, maybe 3 or 4, and build this audience to like 500,000. But I don't have the time to do that. What I love is about what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And that's the part of the uniqueness of this show. So I will be back in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about what we're doing next season, and we'll have more great conversations. Vinny and Vespa don't know we're leaving yet. I'm just saying. We're going to Italy without our Italian greyhounds. I'm sure they're not going to be happy. Let me get some of your messages in here. Go on, Vinny. Yeah. Let's see. Amira, you and Tony are going to... Yes, we're going to have a good time. Lynn, you both have a beautiful holiday. Yes. Coffee in Venice. I'm going to have the most expensive coffee I've ever had in Venice. Mix it all up, says Yanni. Absolutely. I'm going to do the same. Have a great time. Guna Russ in the house. Hope you and your squad are good. Enjoy that limoncello in Amalfi. Oh, what a place, eh? Pizza with pizza. Put on a stone. Who cares? Have a brilliant holiday. Thank you so much, you guys. I love you so very, very much. This is awesome. All of the love in the house. This is what the Highbury Squad is all about. You guys, this is your show. It always has been, and it always will be. Without you, it doesn't exist. Our vibe doesn't exist. And that special community that we've built isn't here. So with that said, I've already, you know what? I'm going to go have a sneaky holiday wine for lunch. Why not? Get into holiday mode, and I will see you kids in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and once again, thank you. And thank you, of course, to ZENITH Coins, who have been huge supporters of ours this season. We've got lots more fun stuff coming next season. Until then, at ease, everyone. At ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Yes, Super Kyle Campbell. We will be back in 2 weeks. Love you guys. Take care.